Hey YouTube, app-driven guy. I haven't made a video in a minute, but I've just been working really hard and kind of just had, not a creative slump, but just haven't really had any inspiration to speak of to make any videos. So today I've had some ideas bouncing around that I've been thinking about lately, just about how to get rides, strategies for getting rides, and just how to be easy about it. I think that's a real important thing, is just to be easy about the whole thing. Not trying to force, the universe to bring you what you want, but just accepting what it gives you and being happy about it. So getting rides. So when you're out there in the field and you get taken to a remote area, they call that deadhead miles, where you're stuck out in an area and you got to drive back to where there's going to be a lot of rides going on, or if you're being dragged out to an area far away from where you are, a bunch of dead miles between where you are and where you're picking up. It's also known as deadhead miles. So when you get taken out to those spots and then you end up there and you're kind of in a remote area, maybe 5-10 miles away from where the rides are going on, you have two choices. You can either sit there and wait for a ride, which is what a lot of people do. You just be patient, wait for the next one, or you head back. So when I'm at that point, I think the best advice I can give you when you're there is to make your decision pretty quickly, because the longer you sit there saying, I should have gone back, I should be going back, is all the time that you could have spent just going back. Okay? The most important thing is to be decisive and intentional when you do this. So if you're going to leave the area, just leave and be happy about it. Go. Don't look back and say, oh, I should have, I could have. And an easy way to do that is to just turn your app off. Turn off Lyft, turn off Uber, whatever you're using, turn them both off and leave that area and get away from it. Because if you leave the app on, you start driving away, chances are you're going to get dragged right back to where you were. And when you could have just waited there anyway, and then you had that feeling in the back of your mind because you're wasting more miles now because you drove away and now you're driving back. So my advice is to turn the app off while you're driving away, and then what you can do is, while you're driving away from that area, you can check the Ryder app. You can switch to Lyft over to the Ryder side, or go into the Uber Ryder app. You got to have that on your phone, the Uber Ryder app. So basically you go into those Ryder apps and you look and you see where other drivers are. And so what I like to look for is what I call area guards. So like a guardian would be somebody, like if you just left one area 10 miles away from the busy area and you're going back into town, and then all of a sudden you look at your Ryder app and there's somebody halfway between where you are now and where you were, then you're safe to turn your app back on, because it's not going to drag you back to that spot where you just came from, because there's somebody in between you and that spot. So I call them like a guardian. Like I look at, in my area, there's Gresham out to the east, and no one wants to get pulled out to Gresham from East Portland because it's like a 8-mile, 20-minute drive. So I call it, having a guardian of Gresham or a guardian of Clackamas. That's just the way I look at it, is so there's somebody in between you and there. So at that point, you would be safe to turn the app back on. So basically, that's that. Now, a big recommendation of mine is, if you're driving on the freeway to get back to a busy area, you got to be real careful, especially with Lyft, the Lyft app. You got to be careful about when you're approaching busy freeway exits. You get this like anxiety because you don't know if the app's going to ping you right before you're getting to that freeway ramp. And even if it does ping you, you still have to look at the little map they're showing you and make that decision whether you should get off the freeway real quickly. And I've had situations where it's like causing me to freak out and get off the freeway real quick when I shouldn't have, or causing problems with traffic cutting across lanes. So basically, my advice there is to turn your app off when you're approaching busy turnoffs of the freeway or approaching busy exchanges on the freeway, and then that gives you a chance to check the Ryder app again and see where you should place yourself, and I'll get to that in a second. But that's not so much with Uber. They're usually pretty good about, when you're driving on the freeway, matching you up with rides that are down the freeway more where you're heading to. And Lyft has a tendency to hit you with rides like right after you pass a freeway ramp. It gives you a ride right off of that freeway ramp, and it says you're 1 minute away, but now you missed the ramp and you're more like 10 minutes away. Now, when you're in a busy area, you need to do what they call the 2-phone trick, which I don't know why they call it 2-phone trick, because you can do it with one. I mean, it's basically just you have the Ryder app and the driver app. Like with Uber, you're looking at the driver app on your phone, but you can still stay in driver mode, switch over to the Uber Ryder app, and then you look at where the cars are in that area. So if there's a car here on 30th Avenue, a car over here on 60th Avenue, put yourself right in between if you're going to work that area. Just go right in between the drivers. Now with Lyft, you got to go offline and then switch to the Ryder app by going to your area, click on your face in the corner and then go down to the Ryder app. And you got to switch over, look at where the drivers are. But that's really handy. Like as soon as I'm done with a Lyft ride, usually I'll just go offline real quick and then I'll check the Ryder app, make sure I'm not sitting on top of a bunch of other drivers, and then go in between where the drivers are, or go to another area. If there's too many drivers around, I'll just move on down the road to another area. So you got to check that out. Once you choose a spot that you're going to go to and try to get a ride, I suggest just stick with it. Stay in that spot, because if you go moving around a bunch of times, you're wasting gas and money. You end up getting dragged back to where you were, and you're just beating your head against the wall. Sometimes it's just slow. You know, you can't force anything to happen in rideshare. It's just impossible. You know, I've sat downtown next to hotels at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning waiting for airport rides, and it just doesn't happen sometimes. And, you know, I've sat there for 25 minutes, half an hour, and then I decide to just go a little bit south of town and I pick up a ride. So, I mean, you got to feel that out. You look at the Ryder app, see if there's a bunch of other drivers, and you can pull up to an area right off the bat and look at the Ryder app and see if there's a bunch of drivers around. And if there are, you know that they're all waiting in line. They're all ahead of you, basically. And so you're going to have to wait that long. So, you know, you might want to position yourself a little bit farther away, more somewhere residential, instead of right next to hotels or whatever the case may be. But just be easy about it. You know, take the money when it comes and be grateful about it. You know, just be happy that you are not having to work a regular job. I mean, pretty much no matter what, in all these areas that people work, you're making more than minimum wage. If that's not the case, you shouldn't be doing rideshare. If you're making close to minimum wage anyway, I mean, you'd probably be better off just finding a regular job. But it's so easy to get caught up in a negative pattern, whether it be from traffic or just not getting rides. And when you get caught up in that negative pattern, nothing feels good. Even when you're making a bunch of money, it doesn't feel good, because you're just like judging everybody and you're angry. You're looking at other Uber and Lyft drivers like, oh, what are they doing? You know, are they making any money? You know, you see a driver with a rider in their car and you're like, oh, how'd they get a rider? You know, that's not fair. But I know those are just the thoughts that come through your head. But if you stop that and don't let that happen and be peaceful and calm, you know, your day is going to be so much easier. Now, one really good way you can do that is between rides. You know, put on some good music that you like. Put on something happy and funny. I don't know. Put on Don't Worry, Be Happy. You know, put on you know, some meditation music. That's what I prefer to do. You know, I listen to a lot of meditation music, especially when I'm doing Amazon Flex too. But with Uber, like just between rides, I'll just listen to stuff that's just uplifting, try to get me recentered, feeling good. On the freeway, you know, there's people driving crazy all over the place. I just go slow, stick to my own little bubble. I don't care if there's Uber and Lyft drivers passing me on the freeway, getting to those rides faster than me. I don't get caught up in that rat race. It just gets you so anxious and worried and just, you know, pessimistic, and just, it's like you're competing for the dollars instead of just out there having fun, which this is supposed to be. It's a fun alternative to having a job. So that's it for today. I want to wrap it up. I don't want to make the video too long. Comment, like, subscribe. If you're going to sign up for Uber and Lyft, I suggest you do it. There's links in the bottom of this comment thread so that you can do that. And I appreciate your time.